ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, human bios of all shapes and sizes. You are on the sidelines with the Sideline Guys for a very special Negron edition of the TSG MMA show. Sean, it's a pleasure to have you back, brother. How you feeling today?
Feeling good, man. I'm feeling real good, especially after a beautiful week last week in the in our picks department. I feel pretty hyped up right now.
Hey, man, I knew the day would come, right? But nothing makes me more devastated than knowing how smug you are on the most unfortunate events possible on my end. But it's okay. You know why? Because we're gonna have to recap the week anyway, so we could get right into it. So our pick section last week, Sean made a very good comeback. As we all know, he's been down 2 points for many weeks now. And last week, he triumphed. He won 3 extra points. And it just so happened that those 3 matches, I also picked the opposite from him. So not only is he now 1 point ahead, but he has snatched up the lead for the season so far. I'm sitting at 43 and 26, while Sean is 44 and 25. I'm still clinging on though to my dynasty league at 14 and 6 compared to Sean's 11 and 9. So that is our recap on our picks from last week. I mean, I think it's only right we start at the main event, right? We both picked this one correctly, but curious to hear your thoughts on Max Holloway's performance against the Korean Zombie in his retirement fight.
I think we predicted it weeks in advance when we announced this fight on our show. I would say like a month or so that this would probably be the retirement fight, and it would be a resume type fight for Holloway in every regard. To add the Korean Zombie to the list of wins and to add the knockout that he was most likely going to get, ended up getting to it. He hadn't had a knockout since Brian Ortega. We talked about it in the last episode,
Mhm.
and I think it was a great fight. It was exactly what the fans I think wanted to see. It was the crowd was electric. We're getting up super early, but I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that time. Maybe a
Right.
little bit pushback, but I enjoyed watching it early in the morning like that. That was fun, but I loved it. The crowd was super electric. They were with the Korean Zombie and they were with Holloway. They, both global fan favorites. And to be honest with you, I thought Korean Zombie looked good. I think he
I
looked pretty good
agree.
in the first round.
Sneaky good.
And yeah,
Right.
very sneaky. And put in some nice combinations. I think he even surprised Max a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think I saw him talk about it actually in the post fight that his speed was a lot quicker than he had expected. Um, but Max got his first knockout KO. I think that was what we all expected, being fight fans. Even if you're what you call a casual out there, I think everyone expected Holloway to win. And I think it was a perfect send off. I feel bad for the Korean Zombie because obviously you could tell he doesn't want to retire, but he just knows with his body breaking down, him getting older, he knows that he's not going to be able to get himself a title. He's not going to be able to beat Max. He's not going to be able to beat Volkanovski now. He knows he's a couple steps behind them, and you know why keep fighting if you're not chasing the ultimate goal? And I thought that was really admirable. He said that in the Volkanovski fight that he knows that he feels like he just can't be a champion, and I think he wanted Max Holloway. He trained really hard to beat him, and just came short. So
Mhm.
I love the Korean Zombie for everything he's done. He's gonna be. I've had this discussion. I'll ask you this as well. Is he a Hall of Famer? I think he will be based off of
Yeah.
reaction and his resume as well. I think, to be honest with you, I think the Hall of Fame is kind of thrown out there a little too much at this moment, and I think people with above average careers get thrown in, and I think it's a little watered down at the moment. But granted, the UFC is very new still. It's a very fresh thing. We're 30 years in, so there's not many generations to really go off of here. So,
Mhm.
but no, regardless, keeping on the fight, I loved it. It was a perfect main event, and I'm really excited for what happens with Max now.
Agreed, man. I couldn't argue with any of your points there. I am interested, not gonna lie, to see how you answer this next question though, because obviously you had Max Holloway in your dynasty draft, right? Um, how do you feel as far as obviously he got the big knockout, but how do you feel about the performance as a whole, right? Like comparing it to his last couple fights. How did you feel about the way he came away with the win in that one against someone that we kind of knew was probably on the way out?
Wasn't my favorite performance from him. I felt like he was a little sloppy. I felt, but I also felt that there could have been a lot riding on this fight. There was a lot of motion before the fight, probably during, and
Mhm.
even after. He wasn't really the one to talk about the fight, so I felt he was still very sloppy, and I think he kind of underestimated the Korean Zombie. He talked about in his post fight thing that he was mad at his coaches because his coaches were going really fast. They were going at him like really aggressively, and he kept telling his coaches that this Korean Zombie is not going to have this type of aggressiveness. It's not going to be this fast. And I think
Hmm.
he kind of underestimated the Korean Zombie, thinking like, okay, like this is a fight. I know he's most likely going to retire. I know he's lost a step. I can I can get a win here, and I don't think he's ever going to say that publicly. But I think
Mhm.
we all thought the same thing, that this
For
was
sure.
going to be one of the easier fights on Holloway's resume. It was a good from the Brendan Allen. Oh no, was Brendan Allen last? No, it wasn't Brendan Allen. It was what's his name? Oh my god,
I'm
I it is Allen, but it's not Brendan.
gonna let you suffer through this one.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. There's nothing I love more than that. It's oh my god.
You're so close, man.
I know it's not Brendan Allen because I know Brendan
Arnold
Allen.
Allen. Arnold Allen.
Arnold. Thank you.
Hey, Arnold, man.
Arnold Allen, yes. So the Arnold Allen was a great fight, and then Yair Rodriguez before that, he's had some crazy good fights and like bangers. So I think he was kind of expecting this one to be a little bit of an easier one, and I think he was very sluggish, very slow, and I think he was kind of sloppy. He wasn't technical like I thought he was going to be, and I think for I would say a good 2 to 3 seconds when Korean Zombie landed a nice combo on him, I was like, you better start covering up, buddy. This
Yeah.
isn't like what you think it is. This isn't like a washed up fighter. He's still gonna try to knock you out. But
Yeah.
I think by the I would say 2 minutes left in the second round, he hit Korean Zombie very clean, and I think once he knew from there, and he attacked the body well, you could tell that the Korean Zombie was different. He had been rattled. You saw his eyes roll back for like a split second,
Mhm.
and I think that's when Max knew, like, okay, I know I'm gonna finish it here. And I think the Korean Zombie kind of knew too, because I was thinking about it when they went to his corner. He was sitting there and they're telling him like, you're doing well, just keep it going. Remember, we still got 15 minutes left. And I was looking in his eyes and I was saying right then and there, I'm like, he's not doing 15 more minutes of this. Yeah,
Mm.
this is it now. And like obviously that's the approach he went with. He just went guns blazing. And
Yeah.
besides that though, I'm not too worried about his performance in this one because I don't think he was going into it 100%.
Hey, all good shouts. I'm loving the analysis here. I thought it was a really fun firefight, all things considered. Um, I don't know. He is one of my favorite fighters ever, right? So I feel like I'm always hypercritical of these guys. Just didn't like the way he was able to land some really good shots against Holloway there. But what can you do, right? What can you do? Can't complain too much. Um, but I'm curious because obviously there was a lot of different swing bouts on here, but I think the most anticipated one besides the main event for both of us was Aaron Blanchfield coming up against Talia Santos. Was super pumped to watch this one. Honestly, super surprised with the way everything played out. But all things considered, I still feel the same way, man. Is Erin Blanchfield the truth, like we have been promoting her to be?
Are you asking me right now?
Yeah, man, I'm
Oh
throwing
yeah,
it all on you.
I love that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yes, I absolutely still believe it. I think this was a great fight. I think this was a one of the biggest steps she's had to take in her career, and I remember going into this fight saying this could be this is soup like a toss up. This is a toss up because Talia in her championship fight or her yeah I guess we could call it a championship fight in her last fight was really really good and looked really strong. So I was wondering Erin coming from climbing the ranks how she would do against a championship contender. And it wasn't the fight that I think everyone necessarily wanted when it came to domination or one-sidedness, but
Mhm.
and I loved it. I think Erin was great, and she is real deal. I almost wish she didn't take her in the dynasty because I know I'm gonna have to see her 2, 3, 4 more times at least in the next year and in years time, and I know those are gonna be most likely W's. So she's real deal for sure.
Yeah, agreed, man. I thought all things considered, this was definitely her toughest test for sure, and it showed, man. I think the first two rounds were dicey. Even the first half of the second round, right, where Blanchfield was able to turn things around, man. There still was a big threat there to start the round, and weren't really sure how she would respond coming off the stool. So big time, man. Big time win there for Aaron Blanchfield. And I don't think this is the last we see of Talia Santos either, right? So I'm loving my picks as far as the dynasty world and how that looks for the rest. Because I could see these two ladies fighting again for the title at some part down the line. So exciting stuff, man. That was an awesome fight. Is there anything else that particularly speaks to you that you wanted
Oh,
to cover or talk about before we move on to UFC in Paris?
two quick ones. One, like we discussed, I think Rinya is a real deal when it comes to prospects in the bantamweight division. He
Mhm.
looked fantastic. We know he couldn't get the
So
finish, which
fast.
I wish he could have. I think still he was extremely I don't remember what the 30-26 I believe it was, or I think he had a 10-8 in there somewhere, but I could be wrong. But still, a very dominant performance, and that's exactly what I hoped and wanted to see. The other fight that I was super upset about, and I even said this to you, was the stupid Anthony Smith Ryan Spann fight. That was robbery.
Hell no, that was a close fight, dude. That
No,
was
it
a
was
close
not.
fight. Yeah, it
It
was.
was
What the
not.
hell? It was
The
certainly
first
1-1
round,
going into
I'll
the
give to
third.
Anthony Smith, but
Certainly
Ryan Spann
1-1.
won the second one, and he was the one putting the pressure on in the third. Anthony Smith was out of gas, could
Misses.
barely see. He wasn't doing anything. I
Span's
could
fault.
not believe they took that from him. I needed that for my picks, but it would have
Span's
also
fault.
helped your dynasty, so I'm not so upset about it. But still, I felt bad for Ryan Spann because now it's like Ryan Spann can't do anything now. There's nothing he could do. The fact that he's got two losses to Anthony Smith, like climbing the ranks for him, has now become an almost impossible scenario.
Mhm.
Wherever Anthony Smith is, he's always going to be right behind him. And I don't see Anthony Smith climbing the ranks into the top five ever again. And I don't think
Mhm.
I think Anthony Smith should consider calling it within a fight or two because I
Damn.
didn't like his last two performances. I definitely didn't like
I
this
thought he
one.
looked great, man. I thought he looked great
Uh,
in round one. For real.
yeah,
All
round
jokes aside.
one,
All
round
jokes
one,
aside. I thought
sure.
he looked great.
I think he was himself in round one, but it's a 3 round fight. I think I think by middle of round 2, obviously the injury to the eye, but I think by middle of round 2, he was completely out of gas. And I think he was just trying to stay alive in round 2, and I felt he was kinda trying to put a little bit of pressure in round 3, but Ryan was controlling that fight in the 3rd round. So that's why I was so surprised that they even considered Anthony Smith in the 3rd round. And I thought it was gonna be split, but I still thought it was gonna be 2-1 Ryan. So that's a
Mhm.
tough, tough pill to swallow for Ryan Spann. It's tough to see what happens with him moving forward. He looked better than their first fight with each other, but it doesn't, it'll never matter because having 2 losses to Anthony Smith is what people are gonna remember.
Yeah. Tough one for sure for his career prospects, but I thought it was a pretty solid win for Anthony Smith, all other things considered, man. Honestly, I really feel like that third round could have gone either way. And like you said, the fact that he was able to brave through what was clearly some fatigue, as well as Ryan Spann putting it on him, right? We gotta be real about that. Ryan Spann came to play in this one and definitely did much better than he did in the first fight, but just couldn't come out on top. Tough roll of the dice there. You mentioned there was something else that you wanted to talk about as well, right?
No, I said Rinya was the one,
Oh yes, yes, you're right.
and he looked great. What did you think of it?
Yeah, man, I agree. I think Rinya looked fast as hell. When I was watching, I was just honestly blown away by that. I ended up tweeting about it too, just because the way he secures position and then looks to transition from there much faster than a lot of people on the ground. Just a shark and able to get to good positions. Fought almost got that north south choke, which is really exciting to see him try to work through that. Didn't end up finishing it there, but you could tell the kid has a ton of power, right, in everything he does. And I think more fights like this, right, where you're able to feel out your tools a little bit, get some time in the cage, and just get used to yourself, right? I think the more he's able to do in that way, the better he'll be for it later on in his career. So great dubs all around, man. It was a good night of fights. Shout out on the undercard, Billy Goff, an underdog that we both pulled the trigger on, came in big time after getting hurt a couple times early round one against Yusako Kinishota. Sorry, but that was a really fun one, man. I definitely recommend if you haven't checked that out to watch that one back. Um, something that I thought would be pretty fun, right? Kind of put you on the spot right here. Let's give out our performance bonuses, right? What would you say for the night was your knockout of the night?
Well, I think I don't want to sound like everybody else, but I think the knockout of the night has to go to the walk-off knockout in Max Holloway. That was probably the knockout of the night. So I would give that one. Um, are we going through it
Yeah,
like
yeah. Let's
performance?
alternate this. Let's alternate this.
Okay, what do you got?
Um, the walk off, knockout was very good. I agree, but it's not going to be the one I go with
Who
because
is it?
I am going to go with the Lord himself, Mihal Oleksiejczuk. Insane fight. Took took a hell of a beating to get there, to get to the point where he could triumph. But man, that was such a fun fight and just such a complete madness affair. I don't mind giving him knockout of the night for that one.
Okay, I like it.
Submission of the night. Who was your pick?
Oh, submission of the night. Okay. Wow. Uh, was there?
No, you see,
I was like, wait a
this is the
second.
trick questions here. I gotta throw your way. Just gotta make sure if you're sleeping or not.
Yeah, because I'm
So
thinking for a second. I'm like, I don't remember one.
literally. So what would you say is your fight of the night if you had to pick one?
Ooh. Hmm. Okay, that's tough. Fight of the night. That's a tough one for me. Um. Hmm. I don't know. To me, I would probably say I can't say fight of the night, but if I was thinking performance of the night, I would probably go with two people, with Waldo and then Junior Tafa getting the knockout on Parker
Man
again.
said, I ain't giving you a fight of the night. I'm giving you three knockout of the nights. You
Hey,
you get you get what you
it's
get.
because it's hard to get fight of the nights. There weren't really that many good like all out bangers fight of the nights. That go and last a distance. There were a lot of knockouts, so you really got to go more performance of the nights.
Yeah,
So that's why I give it to those two.
very fair. I think if any of them getting it, it has to be once again Lord Mihao. So I'm fine with him taking all the awards, right? Because that's just who I am. But I think it's fun that we do this moving forward, just to highlight some of these things, right? And we give out our bonuses here, right? It might not be worth the same 50K, but it means something in our hearts, right? So definitely we'll be bringing that to you guys moving forward. But with all that being said, it's time to get into UFC Paris. We've got Cyril Gahn main eventing once again against Sergey Spivak. We're going to start at the bottom of the card for this one. So we've got some unfortunate news right off the top. Just sadness always from all angles. There was unfortunately some dropouts that affected this card. Most notably, we have obviously in the Zara Farn fight, Jacqueline Cavalcanti coming in last minute notice after originally it was supposed to be excuse me, Haley Cowan coming up against Zara Fern, and this is at 135. Um, Interested to see because right now it's still listed as 135, so good to note. Um, we'll get into that one later as well. But the most recent one, unfortunately, Muin Gafarov withdrew from his fight against Taylor Lapilus. So then the UFC kind of shuffled around some of the matches they had laid out on the card, the first of which is the first fight of the night with Taylor Lapilus, the Frenchman himself, coming up against Caroline Lahrain from Ireland. This is the first fight of the night. Unfortunately, there's no odds listed on this one just yet because this fight just got put together today, quite literally. Um, so interested to see how that plays out for the rest of the week. But as far as picking this bantamweight matchup, I'm going to throw to you, Sean. How do you feel about this last second matchup?
Oh, it's tough because, like you said, it just got thrown together. I was looking forward to seeing Taylor in his original matchup, but I think the hype is around Cowlon right now. If I had to say someone, I believe in the hype of Cowlon right now. Getting it was supposed to be on the main card, and I believe that there's some UFC Ireland card on the way, hidden secretly. No one's talking about it, and I think he's going to be on it as well. And I think a very nice dominating performance from him is what's going to start this card off. So I'm going to go with Cowlon.
Wow. Wow. Wasn't ready for that. I mean, in the
I
first
apologize.
France versus the world matchup, you're picking the world.
Yeah, you know what? Because I'm gonna assume 20% of the fans are gonna be there for the first fight, so no one's really gonna see it. So it'll be a little easier to digest the loss.
That's fair. It won't be a home game per se, right? Because maybe at that point it will be filled up. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe the night gets started early. We'll see. But as far as the way I look at this matchup, I think it's actually pretty comical that you went the way you went because I think this is a showcase for Taylor Lapilus, right? I'm a big fan of Taylor Lapilus. Been following him since his initial run in the UFC, which I can't believe is so long ago now. I saw the on the Tapology page and I kind of shit myself a little bit, man. I'm like, damn, I'm getting old right in front of my own eyes. Crazy to think it's been that long, but just if I have anything to say about the way these two match up, is just Taylor Lapilus is battle tested. The man has fought so many vets at 135, veterans from 125 even as well, right? With people like Wilson Hayes, who I think is a monster as well. So good to always see a win against a guy like that on somebody's resume, right? If you're picking for him. As far as my reasonings for how the matchup itself is going to look, I think obviously there's going to be a little bit of an interesting filling out period with these two, especially because they weren't intended to be fighting each other, right? So a lot of initial adjustment period, I would imagine, is to come there. But I just think Taylor Lapilus is way too smooth on the feet. I don't think he ends up finishing Cowland, but I could see it getting dangerous, dicey at a couple different points. I'm gonna go Lapilus by decision, but actually this is one of my locks on the card at the moment. So looking forward to seeing how this one plays out.
I really hope that you're wrong now. I
Isn't
need
that how it always works? Don't we
yeah,
just
sorry.
don't we
I
just
just
hope
need
the
to
worst?
slowly start to um push my way to getting more and more of a lead in the picks and slowly getting back in dynasty.
Right.
That's all I need. One pick at a time, 1 week at a time. That's what I keep saying to you.
Hey, you
This could
just
help.
got yourself a 1 point lead. Slow your roll,
I
okay?
know. I know.
Okay, look how quick a 2 point lead can turn into a 3 point swing, right? Shit happens out here, okay? So I can't wait. It always feels good though to come away from our picks knowing at least we have a couple matchups that we're not going to be picking the same people on, and fitting that our first of the day starts there. But next up, we have our second matchup of the night. Zara Fern at plus 300 taking on Jacqueline Calval Conti. who comes back at a hefty price of minus 350. So, Sean, how you feeling about women's bantamweight?
That's a good question.
Not very good, right?
Yeah, it's the mm, mm, not feeling too hyped up about Zara here. To be honest with you, I
Hmm.
feel not. I haven't been a fan of her. I would say all. I don't know if she's on a 2-fight losing streak or I think it's a 2-fight losing streak.
I think it
But
might be three.
oh
Yeah, I think
boy, so that kind of solidifies it more for me.
yeah, three. Yeah, Megan
There you
Anderson,
go.
Felicia Spencer, Josiane Nunes.
When was her last fight? When was the date of that fight?
Um, January 21st of this year.
Yeah, okay. Okay. That makes sense now. Yeah, I think this is a big first step for Jacqueline here. When you get a girl with some, I guess we could say some real MMA experience here in the UFC, I think that plays a significant role.
Yeah.
Even though it hasn't been on the winning side, I still believe that experience is vital in the UFC.
Hmm.
It plays a very very key aspect in becoming a contender, a ranked contender, and then a champion. And still, though, I believe that this fight, just like how you thought the last fight was, I believe this fight was made for Jacqueline, and I think she'll capitalize and get a nice win. So that's
I
what I
ag-
got.
I agree with you on all fronts. I wish I could have some depth to my analysis here, but I'm gonna be real. I'm a big fan of her offensive top game, and I've followed her as well throughout LFA now, so I know who she is. I'm familiar with her game, and I agree with everything you said. I think this is gonna be a showcase fight for sure. If Zara Fern wins this, I will. This might even be more shocking than the comedy of errors that was my picks last week. On a week that I go 8-5, right? You would think I'll be happy about that. I just get absolutely torched in the head-to-head matchups. Not gonna happen on this one. I'm going Jacqueline as well. Next up, Farid Basharat coming up at minus 300, coming up against Clayton Rodriguez at plus 275. I think I killed that. Just saying. Um, this is a fucking banger, right? Two big time prospects. Clayton Rodriguez comes to bang no matter who he's fighting. Hard hitter, obviously good in those transitions as well, but mainly is looking to take your block off. And Farid Basharat, man, come from the Basharat School of Excellence, right? Just very consistent MMA game, has good top control when called upon, but mostly wants to beat that ass on the feet. Man, I've waffled back and forth on this one, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't like this price at minus 300 against such a big hitter like Clayton Rodriguez. I'm a big fan of the Basharat brothers and what they've been able to do, but I really do feel like because of his brother having the success that he's had so far, that this line is very, very inflated. I don't have the stones to pick Clayton outright, but
Mm,
I'm staying away from this one. I'm picking Farid Basharat, but don't put any money, please, if you like your
yep,
bankroll.
yep, yeah. I was gonna say it's a very, very, very close fight. Three minus 300 is sort of criminal.
Yep.
Um, this feels more of like a minus 150 type of fight for me, and I think Farid has a little bit more for me to pick him. I really liked his fight against the guy I keep calling Damone, and I'm gonna keep calling him Damone, and
I'm
I know
glad.
it's not his name. And it just rolls off the tongue for me a lot better. But for Blackshear, I'm a big big fan of Blackshear. I really am. He's grown on me just in these last 3 weeks, especially taking on 7 days notices. Twister, and then putting up a great fight against Mario Batista. And Farid's the one who beat him earlier this year. Um, I have liked a lot what Farid has done in the Contender Series and what he did on the John Jones card. So I feel pretty solid about this one. I'm gonna go with Farid as well.
I like it. I like it. No complaints from me. Next up, Morgan Charrier, the champ from France as well, coming in from Cage Warriors, making his UFC debut at a hefty -300 price, coming up against Manolo Zacchini. Coming from Venator FC, the house that Emil Weber Mech built. Shout out to Venator. Um, I'm going to throw to you, Sean. How do you feel about this featherweight matchup?
I think again these minus 300. I think that's a little too much for me. I am going with Morgan here, but I do believe oh, it's tough because I can also see how Manolo take this. To be honest with you, oh, you know what? This is a minus 175 for me, so I'm gonna stick with Morgan. Oh, this is tough. I can't. I'm not gonna waste any more time. God, I know it's gonna come back to bite me. Give me Morgan.
Whew. I love it. I love
Oh,
it.
it's gonna come back to
I'm
bite me.
also going to be going with Morgan Charrier here, so
Thank you.
not going to be a big difference in our standings either. Big fan of what he was able to accomplish in the
Yeah,
Cage
sorry.
Warriors organization. The guy's a finisher, man. So
Yeah,
really watch out for that. I'm really excited to see him make his debut. I think it should be a pretty relatively easy, smooth win. So I'm interested that you were kind of wavering there. I was kind of hoping you'd go the other way, if I'm being honest. But
I know.
next up, we've got Ange Losa fighting out of Killcliff FC, the gym that changes their name every 3 weeks, coming up against Reese McKee, who comes back at a plus 152 underdog.
Mm.
As far as this matchup, I'm going to be very real with you. Nothing about Reese McKee's game has impressed me. And I know that he's had some really tough matchups, especially when he was in the UFC, but was able to come up big time in his time back in Cage Warriors. I just think he's not a plus athlete. And the fact that on his second UFC run, they're like, hey, here's the guy that's just athlete, muscle on muscle, right? Might not be the best, the best guy in this division by a long shot, but this dude will completely be at a physical advantage against you. And I just don't like Reese McKee in those kind of matchups, if I'm being honest. So I'm very comfortably going to pick Ange Losa here. Obviously, the path to victory is a later sort of Reese McKee drawing things out and then getting to Ange Losa as the fight goes on. But I really liked what I've seen from Losa, especially with his improvements, not only in the gas, but just in composure, right? You can tell a lot of guys that fight out of that Killcliff FC camp have a lot to learn from guys like Henry Hooft. So I'm a big fan of Lusa and what he's got. Give me Lusa at that price, minus 165.
Ooh, okay. See, this is a tough one for me because I as confident as I feel more in Ange, I do like McKee's history. I know he's making his second run, right? It's been just about 3 years. His fight against Hamzat at that time was one of the worst fights I've ever seen for
Mhm.
for him. And then the Morono fight, he got pieced up in that one. And Alex Morono I like Morono because he takes a fight at any time. But for Ange, I did like his last win against I can't think of his name. AJ Fletcher. Jesus,
Mhm.
well, almost forgot. Um, yeah, I'm going with Ange. I think this is actually going to be one of those where this is going to end in the second round by TKO.
Oof, I like it. Call your shot, shoot it. I love it. Next up, moving on to the women's bantamweight division. Once again, we got two featured fights on this card. We've got Nora Cornole coming up against Jocelyn Edwards. Dead even, minus 105 for both ladies is the best price you're going to get. You can get some dog numbers on these ladies too. Make sure you check out Best Fight Odds. That's where we pulled these from. But Sean, I'm going to throw you from the frying pan into the fire. Who do you got here?
I'm going with Jocelyn here. I'm a
Wow.
big fan of what she's done. This nice little 3-fight win streak, and like I'm a firm believer in
Experience.
experience. Thank you.
Knowing you, I knew that's what you were gonna
Words,
say, right?
words,
We're just
words.
finishing sentences for each other at this
I
point.
know. Yes, thank you.
Finisher.
Experience, 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 experience. That
Mhm.
is vital for me. And granted, Jocelyn's wins haven't been easy for her, and they've been a little on the debatable side, with her last two wins being by split. But I do feel that she has gotten much, much better since her loss against Jessica Rose Clark. And I think now she's done a lot better with the takedown defense.
Mhm.
And I think that that's going to play a pretty vital role in this fight. And I feel confident in this. This one's not going to go. This one's going to go to decision for sure, I believe, unless I'm completely wrong on that one, which has been possible. But I do feel Jocelyn is a more experienced fighter, and that will definitely be the edge in her victory.
Whew, thank God. Thank God you got out through the analysis and you just feel the exact opposite as I do. I'm going Nora
So
Cornola here, and I'm very confident actually in the play within the distance. I think Nora is a plus athlete in this division. And from what I've seen for Jocelyn Edwards, I don't think 135 is the best division for her. I feel like
mm,
she tends to carry a little bit once again, no disrespect to the ladies out there. Don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I think she carries a little bit of extra weight in this division in a way that slows her down and sets her back a little bit. I think Nora's a plus athlete and someone who really comes to finish fights, has some net damaging leg kicks, which we saw come to bear in her last fight. I think the Paris crowd's going to get behind her and she's going to get a nasty TKO here. So give me Nora within the distance. Next up, William Gomi coming up against Yanis Gemori. Two Frenchmen coming up against each other, right? The battle at I wish I had a historical reference to go on here, but um kind of found it a little strange, right? That with all things considered, they ended up pitting these two against each other, especially because we know um, Gomi fights at 145 and Giannis typically fights at bantamweight at 135. That's where he was scheduled to fight Lahrain earlier in the week, I should say. William Gomi, Giannis Gemori, who you got, Sean? I'm throwing it on you again.
yes, I love that you do that. I'm just kidding. No, you know what? I got Gomi here. I believe he meant to be the bigger fighter here, and I'm I'm a big fan of his in his last couple fights. I think he's on a. I don't want to say this wrong now. I think he's on a two-fight win streak, if I remember correctly. But I do feel that size will be a factor here, and I think the Yanis fight was supposed to be a bantamweight, and now that he's moving up to kind of help, keep this fight together and keep this card together a little bit, I think Gomi is actually going to be the one that has the advantage here, and so I'm going to go with Gomi.
Unfortunately, I do agree with you. Gomi has a very neutralizing style, and I think that's going to take a lot of the pop out of Giannis's shots, which I think is his best chance to victory. So I'm going with Gomi as well. Next up, we've got Volkan Uzdemir, no time, versus a Bogdan Guskov. I hope I've got that one correctly. Um, I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet. Obviously, we like to see our light heavyweights get some experience in the UFC before we judge them too highly. But I think it says a lot that the UFC signed him straight off of a KO from MMA Series 60 motherfucking 4. I think he's a plus athlete. The dude is huge and he comes to bang, right? Like just outright, please. Fun fights. Please check them out. Real fun fights. Has a very interesting look to him. But might be a little bit of a mirror match here, not gonna lie. But I'm gonna go with the underdog in Guskov in his UFC debut. I'm a big fan of Ozdemir and what he's been able to accomplish so far, but I just think he's on the tail end of his UFC run. Guskov's a monster, man, and even if he doesn't come away with the win here, he's gonna put a couple dents in the windshield in Vulcan, if you ask me. So, give me Guskov at that dog price.
Man, I'm so pissed you said that because I was gonna go with Guskov because I thought you were going Volkan. Man, because I'm not a big fan. Just like you said, I think Volkan is clearly on the outskirts here of his UFC light heavyweight career. He's been around a good minute, and I was telling you this off air that ever since that DC fight where I felt he didn't even deserve to be in that championship fight, it's been nothing but downhill since then. And his last win was against Paul Craig, who now is at middleweight. And ever
Mhm.
since that, it's been. I always looked at him as the guy who had like a glass jaw, but he's survived the last three. So I still believe though that this is Bogdan's fight to lose, even though the experience is a very big hole for me. That kind of worries me a lot. When it gets to round 2 and 3, how much of a difference that's going to play. But I just don't. I don't have the confidence in Volkan right now to believe that he can turn this career around. And I'm gonna go with Bogdan as well. Mm.
Oh man, that's a tough break for me, man. I thought I was going with the deep cut here, but apparently it's the consensus. But you love to see it, honestly. I think having debuting fighters that make you question things like this is always fun, right? Because it makes the fight more meaningful in my eyes, at least. So, looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. Next up, a fight that I've been really excited to discuss with you: Benoit Saint Denis coming off that quick turnaround against Ishmael Bonfim, the younger of the Bonfim brothers, coming up against Tiago Moises, who comes back at plus 135 here in this lightweight bout. Sean, I'm going to throw to you in what I think could be one of the more competitive fights of
This
the
is
night.
this
How you
is
feeling?
this is gonna be, I think, the fight of the night for sure. Um,
Ooh,
yes,
guarantees
I
from
think this is gonna
Sean.
be an incredible
I love it.
fight, and I think pivotal for whoever comes out on top. And I think that's gonna be Benoit for me. Um, that's who I'm picking. I do believe he's on another level right now. Obviously we're in UFC Paris. He's the fight is made mainly for him here. It's going to be a great fight, but I just feel he's really stepped up a lot in I would say the last 12 to 18 months, and he's been a completely different fighter than what I expected when he first came up, and I think that continues. I think he gets an incredible fight of the night performance, but I think this is going to be one of those where we remember, when we go to his next one. I think he's going to have a third round submission.
Ooh, okay. I like that a lot, man. I like that a lot. At home, right? You love to see um, a guy coming through at home like that. But guess what, brother? We're doing it again. We're on opposite sides. I
Oh,
am
let's
going
go.
to be picking Tiago Moises. I'm a big fan of what I saw out of him in his last couple fights. Obviously, not on the best streak at the moment, but if you give me, for my money, the man who had the most success by far against Khalabib himself. No, I lied. The Halabib trained. uh, why am I blanking on his name now? I got it. Don't say it. Islam
There you
Makhachev.
go.
Um, I think I think this guy is the most underrated lightweight on the roster. So
Hmm.
give me him to come away with a huge dub here. I'm a big fan. Man, this is gonna be a banger though. I agree with you. I think it was really hard for me to pick, and I just think value at the end of the day in situations like this is always the play in my opinion. But this is gonna be a banger. Honestly, I'm gonna be clinching my pearls as we watch this one. Next up, the co-main event that all of us know is happening, but none of us are sure we deserve. A fight that really took me by surprise, but the closer we get to it, I just can't wait, man. We've got Manon Fiaho coming up against Rose Namajunas. Thug Rose
Mm,
debut at flyweight.
mm.
Sean, I'm gonna let you take the lead on our co-main event. How
Well,
you
this
feeling?
is so tough because Rose Namajunas is my absolute favorite women's fighter. She's always been, but I can't believe she's gonna win this one. To be honest with you, I was very surprised that she decided that she was going to move up in weight and go to a different weight class. I felt like she had it kind of set in store for her for what was next. I thought uh, even with the loss to Carla Esparza that she was gonna wait for Zhang Wei Li to get the belt back and then challenge her for a third time and
Mm,
get have the ability to get a belt for a third time. It's the first time ever.
yeah.
And the fact that she's decided to move up in weight and go to this weight class definitely speaks volumes. And I think this is a potentially, you could disagree with me. I feel like this is a potential number one contender fight in a way. Um, I think if Rose wins this fight, I think this is a fight, depending on how the results go in 2 weeks from now. Um, who whoever wins, I believe will get the title shot next, unless it's rematches and stuff. But I'm a as much as a fan I am of Rose here, I Fiaho has just been. I probably didn't say that right. It's probably it has been, I should say, incredible, and she's looked so good. And Rose, as much of because I'm such a big fan, I've seen her when she's at her absolute best, and I've seen her when she looks rattled or when she looks like she's not 100% committed. And I've seen her in the Andrade fight. She wasn't fully, and she said it, after that she wasn't 100% committed. She once winning the belt, it felt like the drive was a lot less than it once was. And I don't think that's how it was going. And having the second title reign, I think she tried to be very tactical, and I think very the game plan and the fact that they still believe the game plan was a good game plan. I believe that she's still a great fighter, and I think she could absolutely shock us all and you know take Fiaho out in 30 seconds. And like I think she's an incredible fighter, but I don't know. I can't be too confident in the fact of her coming up in weight for the first time. And Fiaho, I think, is on like a 4 or 5 fight win streak. She's been so dominant. I've loved every part of her fight. Some fights have been closer than others, but man, she's looked real good. And I think she's a sleeper. I think people are thinking Rose is going to run through this, but I don't think people are really paying attention to what Fiaho has done over the last 2 years. And I think people will be surprised. People will be surprised. I think you'll be surprised. I think people will be very surprised on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. I
Ooh,
think.
I like it. I like it. I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. I'm very much so in agreement with you. I think this is a very huge task for Nama Yunus in her debut
Yes.
fight. I can't wait to just sit back and enjoy this one, right? To not have stakes in that way, right? And just to really
Yes.
learn some shit. Because I think at the end of this fight, we're really going to have a interesting idea of where Rose Namajunas lands in this division, but also just how good Manon Fiaho can be. Can't wait to see her have this homecoming moment and how she responds, man. This fight is insane. Like, although it doesn't really seem that close on paper, I was really close to going with Rose here, and hearing you sort of make your pick too, I was like, man, I might be on the wrong side, but I'm gonna stay with Fiaho for now. I think I like the spot, and just once again, being at home is what really puts it over the edge for me.
Yeah.
Um, but man, I don't. I'll tell you what. Right now, I do not want to be the person that is scheduled to be facing Rose Namajunas, no matter who it is. I think she has a lot to prove and looks absolutely jacked with this new muscle that she's added for this weight class. So, can't wait to see this fight. Glad that we don't have too many stakes at the moment. Our main event. I'm gonna take the lead on this one.
Oh,
Cyril
good.
gone. All of the Cyril is gone.
All the
Coming up
cereal.
against Sergey Spivak, the polar bear himself. I love this fight. I love this fight so much. And the main reason I love it is because they're like, oh, so you got cooked against the all time great wrestler the
Yeah.
last time out there, right? Why not give you the surging wrestler and see how good of a striker you are? And that's a matchup that I honestly really hate for Cyril Gahn, man. Coming off of a soul draining performance against John Jones to have to face that demon again, although not the same wrestler, right? Not the same sort of attacks you're going to be dealing with from John Jones, you're going to be seeing from Sergey Spivak. But I just seen so much from Spivak as far as being hurt and continuing on through that and just being a damn professional out there, right? If you're not getting what you need as far as on the feet and advancing to the positions you want, just being able to stay calm, stay tactical, and put yourself in an advantageous spot to get to your game. That's something that I saw really consistently out of Sergey Spivak up to this point, and I've got no reason to shy away from him at this number. On top of it, I think if you ask me, I'm honestly surprised that the odds makers are leaning this way. I guess because he's home, but this is the worst matchup they could have gave him coming off of his last fight, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be a shock to the system. So give me Sergey Spivak to complete the underdog upset, and honestly, leave the Paris crowd a little yearning at the end of the night, a little sad, right? Some tears in the Paris crowd as they head out to the stands. Give me Sergey Spivak in the main event.
Because you said that, I'm going with Cyril Gahn. Um,
Woo!
I believe that Cyril Gahn is a better is probably the best fighter that Spivak will ever face. But yes, I do believe exactly what we said. I going into this podcast, I believe Spivak was gonna win, but
Wow, just
I'm
hedging.
changing it up. I'm changing it up because I do believe the Paris crowd will help out with Gon in this one. But I do, I think Gon is an incredible striker, and he has spent the entirety of this camp learning how to defend a takedown, which is hilarious to me. But it's still, I think, going to play some sort of dividends in this fight. I don't know how much of a factor it's gonna be because I think honestly, if I had to predict here right now, I think this fight ends in 3 minutes, and I think Gon knocks him out. Um, I think he's gonna do whatever it takes to avoid the takedown, and I think, to be honest with you, I don't think he's gonna want to do 25 minutes, and I think he's gonna try to keep it on the outside. And I see Cyril Gane knocking him out, kind of clean, and
Ooh,
I have Cyril Gane by knockout.
I'm surprised that you went the full other way after admitting that you kind of was iffy coming in. That's crazy. I mean, I
I have
guess
to.
if
I
it's
got to
gonna
change it up.
happen, it's gonna happen. I'm just really worried for Gon here because not only, right, is he someone that has these fears, but also I feel like he's more of a drag him out kind of heavyweight fighter than he is a knockout puncher necessarily. I thought it took Tai Tuivasa really hurting him to make him realize that he kind of has to go after it, that led to that finish for Cyril Gahn. So I think especially staying at range and trying to outpoint Sergey Spivak is going to be a reason why I'm doubling down on him losing. I feel like taking the time to reset and stay calm, that works in theory, but after someone's attacking the same thing and chipping away, after a certain amount of time, you got a feeling that they're going to be able to break through in those phases. So I love it. Sorry to undercut your analysis with some more, man. That felt
No,
rude.
no. I
But
look at it the opposite. I look at it. You said that this is probably the worst fight he could get right now, and I look at it as it's the best one he could get because there's no better thing to do than to face your demons head on. And clearly, his biggest weakness is wrestling. No doubt about it. I think John Jones joked about it the whole fight camp and the whole pre-show about he's an amazing striker, but he's got zero wrestling, and he got out wrestled by Francis Ngannou, which I think was telling. And
Mhm,
I think John Jones made it look so easy to the point where we look at Gon in a completely different light than we did a year ago,
mhm,
and or even a year and a half ago, because depending on how you feel with the Francis fight. But I think that this was the best thing he could have gotten. I think he probably had his coaches or his coaches told him this is the fight he wants because there's nothing better than to train, to learn how to stuff the takedown, to learn how to be on the mat, then face it head on. If you're just going to avoid it by facing another striker, to hoping facing Spivak in the future or someone of his caliber, you're really not helping yourself there. So I do believe that facing your biggest gaping hole right then and there, right now, is a big major step for him to climbing back into. I know he's already a top three fighter in the division, but to solidify himself as a guy who could still make a run for
mhm.
a title, this is where it starts. Because if you could stuff Sergey in the takedowns, or at least most of them, then you could show other fighters in your quest to become a champion one day, not just an interim champion, but a actual champion, that you can do all of MMA. You're not just a striker, and I think that's where it starts. I think it starts on Saturday evening in UFC
Let's go.
Paris.
I love it. I love it. I love the analysis. One of us is going to be catastrophically wrong, and I'm just
Oh
hoping
yeah.
it's not me. But with all that being said, we are done for the show. as far as our picks go, because now it's time to get into our dynasty draft, my favorite part of the show, if you ask me. This week, Sean has the first pick. As you know, every week
Oh,
we alternate these picks. So really excited to see which way you go with this one, brother. Ta
this
Start
is
us
tough.
off.
This is tough because there's no guarantee with like with anyone. And you have to really think about the future more than just this fight. So to start it off, here, I'm going to say, you know what? I don't think you're going to pick him anyway, but I'm going to stick with it. Oh, this is tough here. You got me thinking here. But you know what? Give me Fiaho to start it off.
Damn it! So
I figured
close.
you wanted her, so I threw in a him to start it, and then I switched it up to a her just to throw you off.
How dare you? I'm hurt. I'm honestly hurt. Can't believe you did this to me. Um, this is a tough one, right?
Yes.
This is a tough one indeed. Oh man, I don't know where I want to go now. You just destroyed my plans here for the dynasty draft.
I have to.
Oh man,
My job.
this is tough. This is a tough one for sure. Um, I'm not gonna do it. I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna with my first pick. I'm gonna go with Morgan Charrier. With my second pick, and this may surprise some folks. I'm doing it. Give me Rose Namajunas.
Wow.
Even if she
Wow.
doesn't win here, I think this is great value.
Ooh,
Now
I
go ahead
disagree with
and
you
pick. Now
completely.
go ahead and pick Cyril Gahn.
I disagree with you completely. I think Rose Namajunas, if she loses, she retires. That's what I think.
Even
Or
better,
she
one
goes
one
for
and done on the L's.
one final attempt at a title back at her original weight class. But I think her career is coming to a stunning end very soon if she can't capitalize.
How
But
dare you?
yes, Cyril Gahn would be my next one,
I knew
and
it.
then I'm gonna go with ooh, ooh, ooh,
All the Cyril is gone.
all the cereals gone for sure. This is a tough one because I don't know. You know what? Give me Benoit. Give me
Let's
Benoit.
go. My favorite
I know
pick
you're
of
gonna
the
take
show
Tiago here,
here.
so
Don't speak for me. I'm going Farid Basharat to my
ooh,
first pick.
okay.
And with my second pick, I can't wait to prove you wrong once again because I'm going with the young polar bear himself, one of my favorite rising heavyweights, Sergey Spivak.
Ooh, you know what? So I'm gonna do. Oh, now you got me thinking. Now you
Thinking,
got me.
thinking.
Yeah, yep, yep. Hmm. Okay, so I'm stuck on two guys here,
Hey yo.
and AO is right. Wow, can't believe I just said that out loud. All right. Hmm. All right. To round it up, give me. I'm gonna take a loss here, but give me
Hmm.
Tiago Moises.
Wow. Look at that. I think that's great value, to be honest. So good shout. Hey, we both got a guaranteed L on this card. You love to see
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So we're fighting to see who's gonna go 3-1 here. You love to see
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Hopefully not both of us. But I can't believe it, man. Record time. It feels like that's it. Is there
Yes,
any
we did
any
it.
other storylines? Any other things you want to mention before we get out of here?
How do you feel? um,
Honestly, I'm kind of underwhelmed by this card. I'm gonna be
yeah, it's
honest.
a very underwhelming one, and I think
I
so is next week's.
Yeah, I don't think obviously name value is what's missing here. I think a lot of these fights are actually going to be a lot more competitive than the odds suggest. I mean, honestly, a lot of these are close odds anyway. Um, but I just feel like this is going to be a closely matched card, and that things can go in a weird way, right? When cards are like that, like either sometimes they start off slow, they could get a little boring. So I don't know. Not really sure how I'm feeling about this one coming in, but once we get past that prelim mark and once we're in the main, man, I really like a lot of those fights on the main card. So can't wait. A lot of prospects, right? A lot of things we're gonna learn after this one. So the UFC show continues on the road. How are you feeling about this one before we close out?
Oh, see, that's a good question. I ugh, it's not my favorite. I think this is gonna be one of the compared to the last one, which I believe was like a year ago, right? I think it was exactly a year ago. I remember because I was in Tampa. It was early September when that card was happening. When it was gone to Ivasa.
The Shui Vasa. Yep.
Yes, Shuivasa. So this one's a little bit on the underwhelming side compared to that card, but it has a nice main card. Very exciting, especially with the surprise of Rose Namajunas going up in weight. I think that's a big story here. A
Hmm.
former champion who put on probably, if not probably, non-arguably the worst championship performance I've ever seen, and I think this is probably a major factor as to why she decided to move up in weight. Maybe she felt like she had done everything she needed to in that weight class, and who knows, maybe 10 pounds on her makes her one of the most dominant fighters that there are. So I don't know. I feel that there's going to be a significant challenge there for her taking on someone like Fia Ho. This is arguably a number one contender in herself. So I think that's a big thing. And then Cyril Gahn, can he stuff the takedown? How will he
Yeah.
do in the aftermath of a Francis Ngannou, of a John Jones? And obviously we saw his incredible performance, like I said, against Tai Tuivasa, another striker. So I think he dominates all strikers. I think he's a top three, top five fighter in the heavyweight division regardless. But like I said, I believe the best thing you could do for your career, for Gon, speaking to him as if you'll ever hear me, is to face this problem head on. And I think this is a perfect and incredible job by him and his team to take this fight. Because if you can turn this around right here and change the narrative, you can start opening up a lot of possibilities and doors for yourself. And I think it starts this weekend.
I love it, man. You can't set it up any better than that. The analysis is on point. The view is on point. The hair is on point. Sean, why don't
Yeah.
you tell them where they can find you, brother?
Yes, the hair is on point. But you can find me at Sean Negron 26 on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. And
He refuses.
then you can see me at bsreports.org. That's my website for sports, any sport, anything sports related for you. If you ever considering joining the sports world and getting your content, your knowledge, what you want out there, then you are more than welcome to reach out to me at any time, and I will always help you. But before I throw this back at you,
Oh
I
man.
know you're gonna. I know
I
you
was
know what I'm
hoping I
about to
could
say.
hide. I was hoping I would be invisible. But yes, go ahead.
I
Tell the
believe in the
people.
last episode
Tell the people.
we heard a specific comment from you saying that we should be surprised. We're going to be waiting for maybe an article, maybe some sort of content that will be sent my way.
Maybe.
I just, coming to the source itself, I'm going to point the mic at you here. What is going on with this? Can you tell us more about what's going on?
Yes, so I will be as transparent as possible. You hate to see when your editor just throws you in front of the bus, right? In front of all the people, just in front of everyone in the Times Square. But I'm working. I'm efforting. It is a thing. It is a thing. Can I guarantee a speedy delivery? At this point, it's safe to say no because I'm already late, right? But it is a thing, and it does exist. So whether or not you believe me or not, it is in
I
the
believe
Google
you.
Drive. We're
Yeah.
working. We're working. Am I there yet? No, but
Can
very
we
soon I will be making my debut.
can we tell the fans that it will be here before the end of October?
Oh, that I feel disrespected. It'll certainly be here before the end of October for sure. That is way
Okay.
far away, brother.
Okay. It's 2 months away. It creeps up. It comes. It comes
Yeah, it
real
does
quick.
come
So
quick. Yeah, it
yeah.
does
Hey
come
yo,
quick.
on my part there. But
How dare you?
you never know. And I look forward to reading it. I look forward to having it on the website, and you joining the team. And
I
this
thought I was already a part of it, right?
you
But I
you
guess we got to
are
make it
you are,
official.
but no one knows that because your
Oh,
name
now
is
no one
nowhere
knows.
to be found. You need to make your debut. It's like as
Yes.
someone who's signed to the UFC. No one knows you're signed
I
until they
thought I had
see
a
you.
bio, man.
No, you don't. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Only
I
people
haven't
who
earned it.
have established writers get bios. So,
Haven't earned it. I don't blame you.
nah, don't worry. You'll be there real soon. I'm just messing with you. But yes,
Yeah, no,
man.
I love it. I love it.
This is it's exciting times. Even though these next two cards aren't the most exciting, I look forward to what the UFC has in plan for the end of the year, and can't wait to keep this going, brother.
Yes, sir. It's always a blast and it just keeps getting better. The gift that keeps on giving is this show. So make sure you continue to support it. Make sure you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. Got a lot of awesome stuff coming your way. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, if you ask me. So make sure you're tuned in. Make sure you got everything lined up so you don't miss any of the good stuff that we've got coming your way. In addition to all of that, just wanted to mention you could follow me at Negron MMA on Twitter. Trying to hit that 550 mark. Keep wavering right under 540. So let's get there, right? Make sure you show me some support there. Would really appreciate it. And with all that being said, make sure that if you liked it, like the video, man. Let the people know that you're enjoying what you see, and that way we know that we're giving you the kind of quality you want, right? That's what's most important to us. So let us know all that good stuff, and I can't wait to interact with some of you guys there. Sean, please send us off on a good note here.
I'm not one for send offs, but I appreciate all of you that came in and listened, and we'll see you on the next one.
What a legend. Peace.